Hello and welcome back to the Loyal Sun Show. That's at the Loyal Suns on all of your social medias. Follow us here, follow us there for Pitt sports content you will not want to miss. If you love that this is the last week without college football of the year and hate preseason polls, this is the place for you. The Loyal Sun Show, a safe, sunshiny place for your Pitt Athletics fix. I am David with my beloved co-hosts, Dylan and Squid, once again on a Monday night. Gentlemen, how are we doing?
I'm getting antsy. I'm getting antsy for football, starting to really consume all of the preseason articles, all of the training camp videos I can get my hands on, looking forward to tailgating. Yeah, it's that time of year where it's been a little hot for too long. You're ready for the weather to cool down just a bit and spend your Saturdays and Sundays either planted on the couch or in the stadium.
The last few weeks have gone really fast. I remember thinking, we're just under 2 months away. And now I think it's almost sneaking up on me how close we are. So I'm really ready to ramp it up.
Have you guys noticed that, like, the lower your expectations are for your teams, like, the less slow the approach of the season feels?
Who says our expectations are low?
I'm talking about the Steelers, of course. Yeah.
Okay, yet?
I feel like the last few years it was like, how is it not September 1st yet? Or how are we not playing football games yet? It was torture.
You guys ever do that thing where, like, you're watching a game and you pretend you don't care to trick your team into scoring more points?
No, I've never done that.
Never done that? Okay, well, I guess that's not as common a fan experience as I was led to believe, but I've kind of been doing that same concept with, like, patiently awaiting the start of the season. I just keep telling myself, and therefore the universe, that I don't actually care about this season and that I'm not excited for it, to trick time into going faster in the season to approach quicker. And it's actually been working. This has been the quickest off season, I think, of my adult life.
Yeah, it's flying by. I'm like next Saturday, not this Saturday, but the following Saturday, we'll have week 0 games. And week 0, honestly, I'm big fan. I like that they give us a little tease nowadays. So I can't wait. I can't wait to tailgate. Can't wait to be back in the stadium, regardless of expectations. And, 19 days until kickoff as of when we're recording this. Still have a lot of time to talk ourselves into 10-2.
I'm getting there. I'm close. All it took was reading some tweets about Kyle Lewis looking like a stud on the new outside linebacker position.
I said it. This preseason is going to be a test of how goddamn stupid the three of us are. And I have a feeling we're not going to like the results.
No, not at all.
Because I'm right there with you.
Not at all. We never do. But, I mean, do we just want to move forward with the mailbag here?
We've got a lot of good questions.
Yeah, so we have our season preview upcoming, but this week we want to answer some specific questions from you guys to get them out of the way before we start grinding the X's and O's, and that'll be next week's episode. So you guys delivered, got some really great questions, and we're excited to see the conversation that ensues.
Yeah, shout out to all of you, because I think our creative juices are just aren't there right now. So you all really picked up the slack on this one.
Yeah. So where do you guys want to start? We have 10 questions, and there's a lot of room for them to go in some interesting directions.
It's all over the board, so let's just start from the top and see where it takes us. Some of these might devolve into debates. Some might be some fun conversations. Who knows?
I think my favorite of these would be, would you take over or under 30 combined wins for Pitt football and men's basketball? Because the more I thought about it, the harder that question actually is.
Yeah. Let's do it. Let's dive in. Over under 30 wins. That was where the line was set. No 30 and a half. So there's potential for a push here.
Yeah. Do either of you feel like very strongly one way or another?
I thought it was a hell of a line.
Yeah.
To be completely honest. I thought it was a hell of a line. And I think my immediate thought went to over. Yeah. So the way I'm looking at this one, without giving a absolute rock solid prediction, because like I said, we still have time to talk ourselves into 10 wins. I have for the past few weeks been pretty strong in my opinion that Pitt can get back to a bowl game this year. I think this is a 6-6 team. I think this is a team that can win 6 games. You look at the schedule. I mean, you have a game against Kent and Youngstown State. So through the rest of the games, you have to go 4-6. I think this team can do that. So that means the basketball team has to win 25 games next year, which is a lot of games. That's a lot of wins. But you look at the last 2 seasons, they won 22 last year. 2 years ago, they win 24. And I think this is the best. This will be the best team we've had since Jeff Capel's taken the reins of the Pitt basketball program. So
are we counting postseason wins for the men's basketball team? Does our Sweet 16 run count towards that total, or is this regular season?
I was counting postseason. So
okay.
I think you have to count that in the over-under. Answer changes a little bit, but for the sake of this, let's say yes, postseason counts. Bowl games count. ACC tournament, NCAA tournament all count in this. I think I'm going to go over, but like I said, this is a hell of a line. It could end up right at that 31-32 mark. And I don't know if the football team stinks it up. Jalen Lowe might have to pick up the slack.
Do we know exactly how many games the basketball team is playing this year? What is it, like typically around 32, right?
31 regular season, and then you get an automatic. Well, there's no automatic bids to the ACC tournament anymore, but I think you just have to finish in like the top 15 out of 18 teams.
Feels doable.
And if they're going to even approach this 30 win mark, they're going to have to finish in the top 15. So we'll assume they're a lock there. Knock on all the wood.
All right, let me vet this out. So I think I'd be happy with 22-9. I think they can be better than that, but the ACC is no joke. They got an away game against Ohio State, and you got to bake in a couple really stupid ones because college hoops. The 22-9, I think they win 2 games. This is a team that's going to warm up, win 2 games in the ACC tournament, and at least 1 game in the NCAA tournament. So that's 25. So do I think Pitt football wins 5 games? Can I take the push?
You can take whatever you want.
Is that allowed in gambling?
Sure. The Loyal Sun Sportsbook, we offer the push.
It was an even 30, so it wasn't 30 and a half or 29 and a half. You can take 30 on the dot and push.
Okay. I mean, this is a great line. At T Scotty 11 asked it, and T Scotty, I think there's a job for you out in the desert out west.
It is a great line. My first thought was actually under, but when we started saying, "Oh, then you get the tournament games; those count," I'm going to go over. So, the football team, I feel like I'm going to land around 5 or 6 wins this year, and the basketball team, I think they can get 25 minimum, tournament run pending. So I will take the over, but even if the football team bottoms out, it still could be really close because of how good the basketball team is. So keep that in the back of your minds, folks.
They might just win 30 on their own.
Yeah, could be like that Kentucky team a few years ago that almost won out.
I think there's a non-zero chance that even if the football team puts in like a real stinker, like 2-10, there's a non-zero chance this basketball team could still. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, we said we have time to talk ourselves into 10-2 with the football team. Just imagine we have like multiple months to talk ourselves into what this basketball team's going to do. Could get
31-0.
Yeah. Okay. I like it. Where do we want to go from here? We want to hop back up top? Do we want to drop down? David, do you have another one that you were eyeing up here?
I was going to defer to Squid.
Let's just talk about the quarterbacks now. Get it out of the way.
Fine.
We talked about it a little bit last week, how big of a battle is going on. We'll talk about that more next week once we know a little bit more. But what we do know is there was a about 4 or 5 second long video posted from, I believe it was 93.7 The Fan, of Eli Holstein throwing 2 short passes. And to say the least, those passes were not spirals. So we got a little bit of PTSD from last year's camp footage of Phil Dracovic throwing ducks left and right.
That's $1 in the icy light jar.
Yeah. After like the 3rd or 4th one, we're like, is that a problem? And some people are like, no, it's fine. Some people are like, maybe there's something to worry about there. Maybe the arm.
I think our official stance last year was as long as the ball gets to the receiver, it's just fine. That turned out to just not be fine. So
the question officially was, how much stock do we take in Holstein throwing ducks in camp videos? If it's anything like Phil's ball, we may be doomed. Yarno throws a pretty ball, though. Does any of this translate? Any good QBs come to mind that can't spin it, that are good?
No.
I don't. Yeah, I was thinking about this all day. I was like, is there a decent quarterback I can think of at any level of football that throws an ugly ball? And I'm gonna interpret it to be like an ugly spiral, because there's some guys with some jacked up motions who still throw a football that spirals the way God intended it to. I can't think of one that throws a wobbler.
To be a good quarterback at the high level, you simply just need to be able to throw a spiral. I think that's all there is to it.
Yeah.
So the other part, do we take how much stock do we put in this 5-second snippet taken across the field? This is actually like the Zapruder film of camp this year.
Did he look bad in other videos? Because I saw the one we're talking about now, and I want to defend him on that one, because it looked like the point of the drill was like catch and release as quickly as possible, and he wasn't finding the laces. He was just catching it and chucking it 10 yards. So the mechanics kind of went out the window.
Something that might be happening in the Cade Bell offense this year. A lot of quick reads, quick passes. You want to be in the habit of catching it and getting ready to go quick. I also think that this person, we don't know who this person is. They could have been sitting there recording this drill for like 10 minutes. They got the back-to-back bad throws they needed, cropped the rest, and put it up for some clicks. So I'm putting 0 stock in this footage.
That's almost certainly what happened, but I'm not putting 0 stock in it. Yeah, I'm not putting 0 stock in it. Poor Eli Holstein probably did just get caught on like a bad set of reps on a drill that maybe they warm up with at the beginning of each practice, but I'm not letting wobbly footballs fool me again. They are not good, and I want my quarterback. Maybe his hand's too small to throw a spiral without getting the laces. I don't know. Do we care about hand size?
Enough.
I don't know. Yeah. I don't like it. That's my official stance.
Yeah, I mean, we simply can't be fooled again by that. I'm certainly going to be watching clips of Holstein more closely in the future. But on the other hand, we talked about it last week that there's this storyline of a brewing quarterback competition. And I kind of expected it to go away and just be like a storyline. But in this past week, the rhetoric has ramped up that, like, no, Holstein is pushing for that starting job, and it's not because of anything Yarnell's doing wrong. He just looks very good, which I guess is a pleasant surprise. But I also remember last year watching videos of a quarterback with like shit mechanics and being told, like, when the cameras are off, he shines, man. Like don't believe what you're watching. He's got what it takes. He's going to make it work. So is that kind of what we got here again?
All I'm going to say is if you work for the Pitt social media team, post some spirals this week.
Please.
Even if you have to do some editing like the Colorado team account did. We'll take that.
That was the funniest thing ever.
Yeah.
Every program dunking on Colorado.
I did just think about this for the good QBs that come to mind that can't spin it. So not that he couldn't spin it, but I once listened to a Steve Young interview and he said, I didn't know how to throw a football until I was actually in college. Like he said, like actually like spinning the ball off the laces. Like he just wasn't doing that in high school. He was just chucking it. And I'm like, that is just an absurd thing to say for a Hall of Fame quarterback. So maybe they just need to teach him how to throw a spiral. Coach him up.
Not ruling it out.
I feel like it's impossible also for a lefty to throw like a pretty ball because our brains can't handle it.
Yeah, but if you just do like the flip to right-handed,
yes,
it just looks fine.
Yeah, like if you do the reverse mirror thing. Wait, I have an answer to the question. Tua Tagovailoa cannot throw a spiral. He might be the lone example. He just signed a $200 million contract, and that guy can barely throw a spiral.
Eli Holstein, right-handed Tua.
I think we'd take that.
I'd take it. I think I'd take it. Okay. I like
all
it.
Right. So I don't know if we answered the question at all.
As intended. Okay. Let's I'll pick this next one. Kind of touch on some of the tailgating stuff we have here. This one threw me off a little bit. Icy light mango, boys, kind of fancy, don't you think? Am I supposed to drink that with my pinky extended? Do I got to show up to your tailgate in a blue blazer to fit in? This was the most bizarre question we got, and I'm not entirely sure if they're making fun of us for drinking icy mango. Does that make us not tough, not blue collar, not real tailgaters?
Or is he calling us white trash for drinking a mango flavored light domestic beer?
I'm not sure.
Because it's not expensive. That's for damn.
To answer your questions, your very, I'm guessing, sarcastic questions, you can drink it with your pinky extended if you'd like. And you don't have to wear a blue blazer to our tailgate.
This is not the SEC.
Right. But then I guess to pivot on this a little bit, where do we stand with icy light mango as a tailgate beer? Because I think it's almost just the perfect tailgate beer.
It's up there from week 1 through like week 4.
Right.
Like that's got to be in the rotation. There's got to be some icy light mango in the cooler. When the weather's like that, it hits different. Now, once the winter months come along, you got to go to your regular icy lights and other.
Maybe even iron heavy.
Once you have to discuss whether you're wearing layers to that game, I think that's officially when icy light mango season's over. Like if I'm debating throwing on an extra long sleeve under my hoodie, can't drink icy light mango at the tailgate.
I would concur, but in those warm months, you call it the perfect tailgate beer. I think it's the perfect beer, period. The only way it could be improved would be by bumping that 3.8 ABV up to like a 4.2 would be great. It is delicious. And what I love it for is, you have those noon tailgates and your body doesn't exactly always want you to start housing beer at 7 a.m.
Right.
But it is like if you don't have like a traditional breakfast cocktail available, like a mimosa or a Bloody Mary or an Irish coffee, I think it's the perfect intro beer because it's so smooth and it goes down so easy. And then you have
like
two
juice.
mangoes. It's like juice. It's like you're drinking juice with your breakfast before school.
Yeah.
And so it's a great way to ease in and then start rocking and rolling.
Or you could have 36 in one sitting at a bar while watching Pitt lose to Syracuse like one of our buddies did last year.
Thought it was 39.
It was 36 in the bar. He had a couple after we left the bar.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah.
Did he hit 40?
No, he had too much McDonald's and he got full.
Didn't want it bad enough.
No.
So what about this implication, perhaps, if I'm reading it correctly, that icy light is feminine? Is that what we're getting at? That like men shouldn't drink icy light mango? That's a possible interpretation of this very odd question.
I mean, just spare me. Like, is this on a different level than a White Claw? I like me a good seltzer to tailgate here and there. If the weather's nice. I'm not into shaming people for what they drink.
Amen.
Whatever gets the job done.
Mango gets the job done.
Well, since we're on the topic of tailgating, not to jump in front of anyone here, but I figure it makes sense to take this one from our boy Big Steve Harrison. What is the best game time for tailgating? Those early AM breakfast tailgates, prime time all dayers, or a little bit of both worlds with the 3:30? Now, I personally, I have a soft spot in my heart for all of the game times. Like he said, like the 3:30s are just, you can go out before, you can get drinking early before noon, and then you can still go out after the game. The prime times, obviously, you just have all day, but you have to pace yourself a little bit to get to that night game and then sit under the lights there. But like the early a noon kickoff with like a 7 a.m. breakfast tailgate, with whipping up the egg sandwiches on the grill, Irish coffee, maybe into an icy mango, and then riding right into the game, and you're just pretty blitzed by the time 11 a.m. rolls around. I love them all, and it's like picking your favorite child.
So we're taking the game atmosphere out of this. So
yes, tailgate.
Just because, in theory, like the 8:30 p.m. game would probably be the best atmosphere in the stadium. That's out the window.
Okay.
All the game experiences are the same, because the big knock against the noon games could be against a weaker opponent. People don't want to get up and at them that early. Stadium's not that full, but for tailgating purposes, I'm all about it, because you can get up in the lot. You can pull up College Game Day on your tailgate TV if you have one, and really build the momentum for the day, win the ball game, and then you got the whole day ahead of you to hunker down, get some food at a sports bar, watch the rest of the slate.
3:30 slate, you still have the ability to watch.
So I might lean towards noon for tailgating purposes.
I think I disagree. Listen, don't get me wrong. I love a good breakfast tailgate. I love waking up like excited with something to do. But as far as like actual tailgate quality and planning the rest of your day and being able to do other things, I think it's the worst. because all of a sudden you're just drunk at noon, and that's what you're doing for the day, which is not something I'm complaining about. But I'm just saying with a 3:30, you can sleep in a little bit and still get like sun is in the sky, pretty early tailgate. You can watch a game on the tailgate TV, and then you don't necessarily have to drink for 16 hours if you are, an adult and go until the Hawaii game ends at 4 a.m. But I think I have to go with prime time here because you can wake up whenever you want. If you need to get a couple things done during the day to make sure you aren't hungover and screwed on Sunday, you can. And most importantly, you can watch the entire slate of games that day and then go catch a big Pitt matchup. Like you can still watch the first slate of games and then go start tailgating, and then go to the Pitt game. Whereas my one knock against like a 3:30 start is you are missing the end of all of the noon games and the beginning of all of the primetime games.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's so inconveniently in the middle. So I think I'm going to have to go with primetime.
Some good logic. My knock against the primetime game is you got to pace yourself for one. And for two, it's just so long. You're sitting there waiting all day for it to happen. Like you said, if you have things to do, for me, it's like I can't focus on anything else but this Pitt game that's happening.
It doesn't do anything else.
9 hours from now.
That's fair. But that's another reason that Icy Light Mango is the greatest beer on the planet. Because if you're someone who like generally struggles with pace, like you have a certain drinking pace and you are not taking into account what number beer you're on, that 3.8, you can just gas those motherfuckers and still be pretty in control.
Yeah. So what's your official vote, Squid? Is it the nooner?
I went with noon, but it's tough.
David, your prime time.
Well,
I'll sit right in the middle with 3:30. I'll sit right in the middle with 3:30. We're split. We're house divided. But like I said, I'd tailgate. I'd tailgate a game that was played at 11 a.m. against OU. Oh wait, I have done that.
Yeah,
good times.
Honestly, bring back 11 a.m. ACC network kicks.
No, that's the worst one.
All right.
I'm going to pick our next one, and I'm going to stay off the field still.
Okay.
We've got a couple on the field questions coming up. What is the worst and or most annoying team someone who is actually from Pittsburgh can be a fan of? I'm thinking Duke or UNC basketball.
I love this question.
Mm-hmm.
And there's so many correct answers. But the worst. So, I mean, first that came to mind for me, and like I said, there's a time, but like I just can't stand the contingent of Notre Dame fans just throughout Pittsburgh, regardless of sport. I mean, it's mostly football. It's even worse when you get to like a basketball game, and it's just like, oh, really? You're a Notre Dame basketball fan, die hard. I think that's off the top of my head. That's my answer. Squid.
The two worst fan bases are objectively Penn State and West Virginia, but it at least makes sense for them to be in Pittsburgh. So I don't know if I can knock them for that. Notre Dame, it's just like, why? I feel like I don't know who's worse, the UNC basketball fans or the Duke basketball fans. Because for the longest time, like the Duke fans were the worst. And then I think the UNC fans kind of crept up mainly because of their football team kind of being like a stretch where they were rivals with us and had our number, so they pissed me off a lot. But I might go with Duke basketball.
I mean, it's like the Yankees. It's like liking the Yankees or the Cowboys. Duke basketball.
There's no logic to it.
They just so routinely have players that you hate. Like Filipowski last year. Like if you crafted a Duke basketball player in a lab, it was Kyle Filipowski.
Yeah, and what makes you want to like them? If you're like a child or a teenager or an adult, you don't see Duke basketball and go, oh yeah, that's a team I would love to root for.
You root for Duke if you don't ever want to feel like discomfort while watching a team you're rooting for.
I think I give them the edge because there were probably a decent bit of UNC fans who got their fandom started because somebody in their family tree liked Carolina blue and just wanted to wear Carolina blue polos all the time. So like someone's great grandpa was like, oh yeah, I like this color. And then they became a fan of it and then just got passed down for years and years. With Duke, they're just so hateable. Always.
I can live with UNC fans. I'd prefer they not be in Pittsburgh, but I think like the implied of being a UNC fan is that you aren't you made a conscious decision to not be a Duke fan. I think every sports fan, every basketball fan is either on the UNC or Duke side of the spectrum. You're either Duke or UNC coded. And I hate Duke very much to an extent that makes me kind of identify with UNC a little bit because they also feel that way about that team. So that doesn't bother me as much. I think Duke is far and away the worst you can be. Like there's no excuse to be a Duke fan in Pittsburgh because like how many undergrad do they have? Like 6,000. What are the odds that you have like a family tied to Duke?
Have you seen the video of the one TikTok like influencer? They went to the Duke March Madness game and walked up to every Duke fan leaving the stadium asking if they went to Duke, and everyone just said no.
Sounds right. It's exactly how I'd expect that to go down.
And you could also do the same
You can
thing
be fans of teams you didn't go to school at. It can happen, but if you pick that one, you're a tool.
I think the football equivalent of that is Notre Dame. You guys hit the nail on the head. Growing up in a very Catholic community, everybody who didn't want to ever have to fear living through a 6-6 football season just took up Notre Dame and was like, oh, I want to root for the Catholic school. Fine,
Irish
whatever.
Catholics.
The Irish Catholics, yes. But Miami.
Oh yeah.
Quietly a close number 2. Because odds are if you are our age, you cannot vividly remember a time that Miami was good, except one year
it beat them.
Except the time that Pitt beat them and kept them probably out of, I don't know. Yeah, the playoff was around then. The playoff. But you just saw a couple cool clips from the early 2000s and fell for the branding machine.
Yeah. There's also just a really high probability that you suck if you're a Miami football fan living in Pittsburgh.
It's true.
Flag. Big red flag.
All right. We done there? We cover our bases?
Yeah.
Yeah, there are a couple other really annoying ones that you can absolutely make a geographic argument for. Like I get pissed off when I meet Ohio State fans in Pittsburgh, but that's simply like geographically a pretty reasonable thing.
Fair enough. All right, next. Any preference of what direction we go here?
Are you or someone you know looking for work in a recession-proof industry? Are you someone that's interested in things like having health care, having a 401k, immediate PTO accrual, an employee assistance program, or referral payouts? Our newest sponsor, Haddad Accelerated Delivery, an Amazon delivery partner, is looking for safety-minded and dependable drivers to join their delivery service team. Be a part of a company that will encourage self-ownership and award bonuses based on exceptional safety and delivery efforts. This is the ideal gig for individuals seeking full-time work or students interested in making some pretty good money during breaks. If you are someone you know is safety-focused, hardworking, organized, efficient, and team-oriented, text HADD to 464-646 to apply. I understand that is an impossible string of letters and numbers, so here it is again. That's HADD to 464-646. For a job that's the total package, get it? Because it's deliveries. Haddad Accelerated Delivery is the place for you.
To switch back to on the field things, watching the Colts preseason game made me think, does Pitt win 6+ games if Keaton stays last year?
Huh.
Yes.
No.
Keaton Slovis was not a good quarterback at Pitt, but I think the difference between what the abomination of last year was and just squeaking your way to bowl eligibility would have just been like a mediocre college quarterback, and I think that's what Keaton Slovis was. Would we have hated him and called for him to be benched every single game? Absolutely, because we already had the leftover just rage from the previous year that they won 9 games in, by the way.
He won 9 games. I think Patty won one of those.
True. And Nate Yarnell won another.
Yeah.
So
Slovis only won 6 games.
7? Or was there another game he was out for? 7?
Well, yeah, because he was out. Was he out against? Was it New Hampshire, Rhode Island?
No, he played that game. They just handed it off every play.
Gotcha. Okay, so he did win 7 games.
So I'm looking back at it. This is a big topic from the Slovis era. West Virginia made enough plays to win that game. First half of Tennessee looked pretty darn good. After that, trash. Don't forget that Georgia Tech game. He was abysmal. There was the Louisville game. He threw 2 of the worst passes I've seen.
Yeah.
Up there with Phil Dracovic almost. And he had a lot of weapons. Like Jared Wayne, Izzy at tailback. Like that was a really solid team. Like that defense has a number of NFL guys. So he had all the weapons in the world and still wasn't getting it done comfortably. So I would say we would need a better quarterback than Keaton Slovis to get us over 6. Maybe we get 6. But
I don't know if there's another quarterback who played real snaps last year that could have put us in a worse position. Like, think back to last year's backyard brawl. Pitt loses that game by the amount of points they do. And Phil actually just essentially handed the ball to West Virginia 3 times. That's a game where I think they probably can just go and win that. I mean, the Cincinnati game, just don't go 10 for 32. Probably can go get a win there. Look, I'm not beating down the door and trying to be a Keaton Slovis truther here. I just think they could have won 6 games and got to a bowl game.
So if we give them those 2, we're at 5. UNC blew us out. Virginia Tech blew us out.
Does
Keaton Slovis beat Louisville? Maybe that flips to a loss. It probably does. Wake Forest game, Vair looked pretty good that game. I don't know if we can get that game out of Slovis, and we still lost. So Notre Dame. We beat Notre Dame last year with Keaton Slovis. Any takers?
Yeah. Because of momentum or whatever.
Florida State loss. Syracuse couldn't stop a tight end loss. Boston College, we won. They're terrible. And Duke, we lost to. I don't know if that changes.
I will say this. So honestly, you going through that one for one, it doesn't fit. But I feel like the team was so defeated so early in the season because they were like, we have the worst offense of all time. We can do absolutely nothing. I think the offense still would have been bad because a certain someone was calling plays and calling the shots. I think we get 6.
Yeah, Dylan, I think it took us long enough to get to that point. Frank Signetti's still in the building in this hypothetical. And Squid reading through all those games was the first time I really realized in retrospect, because I've tried very hard not to think about last season, they were not in a lot of these games. Like, it's not like, oh, we came this close in a bunch of them. It was like we got generally blown out by, like, or lost by multiple scores to Kiers. So Slovis deserves less shit than we gave him during his time here, although I do think that is simply like an 11-win team, an 11-plus win team with Nick Patty just playing average football. I don't know. He went to BYU and was bad. He got benched. He was not as bad as we said he was because he was ultimately in a system that, one, was not his style. He is not a pro-style quarterback. He's a West Coast-style quarterback. And 2 was just bad. But I just...
Trust me, I'm not saying that Keaton Slovis was good. I'm saying that bad would have been like a major upgrade to what we had.
Yeah, wins us probably 2 more games. Yeah, but I don't see 6. I don't think there's many like different timelines or alternate universes where that team last year wins 6 games.
Fair enough.
Except with Nick Patty.
Yes. Who still had eligibility, by the way. We'll never forgive them for that.
God damn it.
Should we talk about another former Panthers quarterback who's playing in the NFL right now?
Fine.
Let's dive in.
This was one we had some debate about whether we wanted to touch on, but we're going to do it because we're men. That's what we do.
Pull it out of the mailbag, Dylan.
Will Kenny Pickett start for the Eagles at least one regular season game this year?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. All right. I'm glad we're all on the same page.
The push with Hurts is a ticking time bomb. And I mean, if you look at, I would say this is purely based on gut feeling, but I'd be willing to bet I'm right. At least 50% of NFL teams last year had a backup start a game at quarterback.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, pure numbers standpoint, it feels like it's gonna happen.
We haven't really talked much about that move. How are we feeling? How have we gone through all the stages of grief?
I think that was intentional, though we haven't talked about it. But it's still stings a little bit. But I was actually thinking this earlier. I'm excited to go through a football season where Kenny isn't the quarterback for the Steelers, because even when the Steelers were making a run towards the playoffs last year, like making a playoff push, I couldn't enjoy any of it because the discourse around it was so nauseating.
Yeah, the low point was hearing the Pittsburgh media say they would rather lose and see Pickett throw for more yards than win after an unimpressive win. And I was like, this is a lost cause.
We were 7-4 with the two worst teams in the NFL coming down the pipe. And he was public enemy number one in the city. And now what's shocking to me is the extent to which it's carried over. Like all of these Steeler blogs and fan pages on Twitter and all of, honestly, even like actual card carrying members of the media just openly rooting for his failure in Philadelphia. There was this whole big storyline about him getting moved to third string. And it was literally because one Eagles outsider, and keep in mind, this is a town of millions and millions of people, one of the biggest metropolitan areas in the country. They have a lot of media. One guy said, Tanner McKee actually looks pretty good. I'd like to see him getting some 1 and 2 snaps and pushing Kenny for that number 2 spot. I'd love to see what happens. And a bunch of Steelers bloggers got a hold of that and changed the narrative to Kenny's getting pushed down to third string because he sucks. Look at this guy. Can you believe that we had to put up with 2 years of him at quarterback? And it's just like, come on, man. The guy did nothing wrong. He tried his best, and we already made up enough stories about him having these diva fits that are just completely inconsistent with what anybody who's ever been around him has said about him, and inconsistent with the accounts of the players on the actual Steelers. And we're just trying to vilify this guy because he didn't score enough touchdowns, playing for the worst offensive coordinator in the modern game.
Well said.
Besides Frank Signetti. It is actually like unbelievable how bad the offensive coordinator combination was between the two, the pro and college team here. For those wondering, Matt Canada has not landed another job in football. So
What?
Maybe he's just taking a little break. Maybe. You think Narduzzi gave him a call?
No, he's probably called him and said, I told you shouldn't have left for LSU 6 years ago. It was longer than that now, I think. But
Doozy called him
bitter
from a
about
blocked
that.
number and said, "You suck," and hung up.
He's still bitter about him taking a pay raise and going to LSU.
I will be heavily invested if and when Kenny starts the regular season game this year. Like maybe more than any non-Steelers regular season game of my life. Okay. That was a little painful, but much needed. Here's another one. I like this question a lot. Who's your favorite underrated Pitt football player of the Narduzzi era? The person who asked this question said my pick is Kylan Johnson, which Kylan Johnson was just a very solid, like one of the first like guys they went and got as a transfer. And I was like, oh, this transfer portal thing's it's kind of nice.
Yeah. I can start. I always felt Taysier Mack didn't get enough credit. That was a very consistently reliable wide receiver. If you threw him a 30-yard back shoulder fade, he was coming down with it 10 out of 10 times. But the offenses were generally unexciting when we had him, and I don't think we appreciated him enough. I think all of those targets that were forced to Mo French should have gone to Taysier Mack.
Unexciting until the 2021 season, correct?
How do you mean?
You said all the offenses he was a part of were unexciting.
Until the 2021 season where he got hurt pretty early on.
Yeah,
he was out the rest of the season. Could you imagine how much crazier that offense would have been if it were Addison, Mack, and Jared Wayne?
Yeah, I mean, that team was loaded. I think about it all the time. I think of it, especially when I'm playing college football 25 now. I'm just like, wow, I wish this game came out in 2021.
Yeah. So yeah, Mac.
Squid?
Underrated. I feel like Ray Graham gets underrated.
In the history of things?
Yeah, there's so many good running backs. When you think of the great running backs, LaShawn McCoy, James Conner.
The problem with
Deion
that
Lewis,
pick is I don't think he played for Pat Narduzzi, Squid.
Was that the question?
Yeah, of the Narduzzi era.
Oh. Okay, well, I should have read that. Come back to me.
Okay. So I think he ultimately was very appreciated by the end of his time here, but I still think like people don't realize how good Jared Wayne was. And like once again, guy had 1,000 yards. Like I think people know Jared Wayne was good, but like that dude was just iron hands, didn't drop anything, blocked his ass off, and also was just a very like he was the number 2 option to Addison, caught a touchdown in the ACC championship, and then his last year caught 1,000 yards we've already had this discussion about how bad Keaton Slovis was. Had 1,000 yards receiving with Keaton Slovis as his quarterback. So I think he's also just one of my favorite Pitt players ever. So maybe I don't think he gets enough respect. But Jared Wayne is like, yeah, he's just a hero soldier. And Elijah Zeiss.
Yeah, I think Zeiss is the right answer.
Yeah, we'll go Elijah Zeiss. Remember that one pass break we had against Miami?
You mean against all-pro Braxton Berrios?
It's very arguably the most important play in college football in the last decade. So
some are saying.
There's probably so many good ones on that list that we left off. But
I mean, there's some guys that we thought were just the dudes until the 2021 season came around, and that was just full of dudes. Like, I feel like we forget about Patrick Jones a little bit nowadays, just because it's been a while, and we've had so many good defensive ends, similar to the Ray Graham effect that I was alluding to earlier. Like Patrick Jones, Rashad Weaver was an absurd defensive end duo that I would do crazy things for to have this year.
Yeah. I mean, I think if you could add any position group from a previous Narduzzi team to this specific group, you'd have to go with that defensive end pairing.
Or just the quarterback room from 2021. Bit of a cop-out, I know. Okay. A little bit more tailgate action here. Did you get a Gold Lot parking pass from our man Tom? No, we did not. Believe it or not, we didn't qualify for one last year, and we didn't this year. So right now we're free agents in the tailgating game, in the parking lot game. So last year we ended up finagling our way into the Gold Lots one way or another for just about every game. So we still made it work. We'll see if that works this year. I know there's some obstacles in our way to doing that. But yeah, we're gonna do our damnedest to be in the Gold Lot. If not, if anyone has any recommendations that, like, I would just like to be able to maybe see the stadium from where we're tailgating. Like, even if I need to use binoculars.
Yeah, I'm fully prepared to do a high school commitment decision for what lot we'll be tailgating in this year. Maybe we'll do it like every Friday night once we have our plans ironed out, hopefully by then. Like this week, Gold Lot 1B. This week, Gold Lot 2. And who knows from there. The possibilities are endless. Maybe we'll be tailgating.
Cardello building.
I've heard some things about that.
The AP poll came out today. Any immediate reaction?
Oh boy, do we have some immediate reactions.
Should we just rapid fire some thoughts?
Yes. Just felt gross reading Oregon Big Ten.
Yeah.
I felt gross seeing Michigan come in at 9. And I think there's a very good chance they miss out on the playoff this year. But I firmly believe that if you win the national championship, you should automatically go into the next season as number 1 because you won the whole thing, the thing that you play for. You won all of it. And anything that happened that pushed these other 8 programs ahead of them is like purely on paper and hypothetical. You're saying, I think this transfer that went to Texas is going to push them ahead of Michigan.
Yeah.
Okay. So you're theorizing. And also, I mean, it's kind of like boxing. Like, to take a champion's belt, you have to beat them pretty definitively. I think it should be the same in college football because I'm sure Michigan will falter, but I think you should, if you win the national championship, you should get the benefit of the doubt.
Yeah, I definitely don't think they're going to go 15-0 and repeat. So, like you said, when they lose, you can drop them from their top spot, but they should be able to hold on to that. But also, it's Michigan, so I don't really care.
Yeah.
I'm
Cheaters.
surprised you two went that route. First thing I thought we'd call out was Miami being number 19 again. Also, Iowa, number 25.
Ooh, who has the stats from Iowa's spring game?
Cade McNamara did not look stellar in their scrimmage over the weekend. He was 7 for 21, 20 yards, fumbled a snap, and he threw a pick 6.
Well, that's just the kind of thing that happens when you have to play a Big Ten defense.
Yeah. Big Ten. Great. Awesome. But also Miami. I mean, Cam Ward was pretty sweet at Washington State. It was Washington State, so I don't know how much we're going to hold against their overall success. Put that on his shoulders. Is he that good to make them fixed? Like, Mario Cristobal's still there, and he's an idiot. They got Damian Martinez, who's kind of a sweet running back, unfortunately. But I am not sold on any of these guys being the ones who are going to come in and make the U hashtag back.
Oh, Texas A&M too.
Are we in the trust tree?
You love Cam Ward. Yeah.
Against my better judgment, might be bought in on this Miami team. Like for us, the indicator of how stupid we are is, do we convince ourselves Pitt is going to like win 10 games? Like, do we build that excitement and that expectation in the offseason and get sold into thinking that this is going to be a decent team every year? I think for the broader college football enjoyer, it's on a year-to-year basis, do you convince yourself that this is the Miami team that makes Miami relevant again? And I know at the end of the day, Mario Cristobal's their coach, but like, you just named a ton of sick players, and then they also have a ton of sick players that you didn't name, especially on the offensive and defensive lines.
Story of my life with Miami.
So this
is the first time they've had NFL talent.
No, this is once again a Miami roster that is absolutely loaded and maybe top 10 in the country in terms of talent that will certainly be Mario Cristobal into a 7-5 season.
I don't think this is that good of a team. I think we're getting wowed by Cam Ward's stats from the Pac-12, and no, I'm not buying it. I think that if they were on Pitt's schedule, this might be my upset pick for the year. Like Pitt goes 4 or 5 wins, but they take down Miami. Ultimately, what I think will happen is Miami wins 7, maybe 8 games this year. Maybe they beat a lame duck team in a bowl game. And then next year, they come in at like number 11 in the preseason polls, and they get really annoying. But also just win 7 games the year after that. The endless cycle.
We're letting Texas A&M off here as well. They're ranked at 20. Same old song and dance.
Well, I'm looking at this one article on ESPN, and it has this one writer gives each team their ceiling and their floor. So for Texas A&M, I just lost them where that. He says their ceiling is 10-2, their floor is 5-7.
Oh,
Yeah, pretty similar results.
pretty narrow range.
Kansas, their ceiling is 12-0, their floor is 6-6. Well, really going out on a limb there, huh?
Oh wow, this guy's
They could be
brave.
in like the BBVA Compass Bowl or the 1 seed in the college football playoff.
How do we feel about North Carolina State at 24 and Virginia Tech at 27? Because those are 2 all-time just like thrown into the 20s programs every single preseason, no matter what.
I'm not buying NC State. Although they do make the college football playoff in almost all of my NCAA 25 dynasties, I think Grayson McCall is going to get exposed from his little gimmick offense in Coastal Carolina. He can't hang in the rough and tough ACC.
Yeah, I mean, they finished what? They finished last season ranked 21. They're at 24. I mean, it's fine. That's fine. Virginia Tech, Kyron Drones. I don't know. Is he good? Is he? Do I just remember what he did against Pitt? Very bad Pitt team, maybe. Are we working with 0 group of 5 teams?
0
in the top 25.
What have they done to my beautiful sport? What's crazy is I don't think it's as much a commentary on that gap is growing between the power and the group. But I think it's almost being over reflected in the media because the media has kind of been the one to announce like, oh, this is what's happening to the sport of college football, no matter what. Boise State is one of the 25 best teams in the country. So I think that general college football media has decided that this gap is now in place before I think we've actually really seen on the field that being the case. We're still, 2 years removed from Cincinnati putting up a fight in a playoff as a group of 5 school.
Yeah.
I'm just mad Pitt didn't get a vote. Not a single vote.
Predicted that.
Disrespect. On ACC bias. That's what it is. Anti-Italian discrimination against Narduzzi. That's all it could be.
Yeah.
Anything else on the AP poll? We aired our grievances.
It feels good to air my grievances about college football again.
I was going to say, like, as much as we kicked this episode off saying we hate preseason polls, but like, it's almost like we hate them, but we couldn't live without them.
Yeah.
At this point in the year, I don't hate them as much, but come like week 3 or 4, they really irk me.
Let's all be honest. We like to see the little numbers when teams are playing. When the schedule comes out, it's like, oh, 4 versus 13.
Or even if it's like 11 versus 25. I'm glad they got the 25. They might not deserve it, but it's a ranked matchup.
15 versus 23. I mean the numbers.
We can reserve our anger for week 4 when Number 13 LSU has barely skated by 4 consecutive opponents, and the pollsters do not correct themselves at all.
I can't wait.
Cannot wait.
The release of the AP poll pretty much means we're back. Like, we were back last couple of weeks because we've been recording, but like the AP poll, that's just the big banner you fly out front. We're back. Okay. Anything you guys want to leave us off with? I think that's all our mailbag questions today. We do have other ones. We appreciate everyone who submitted mailbag questions, and we actually are going to keep some of these in the chamber just because they'll make more sense at different times during the season. But hope to keep doing this. Everyone who sent this on, I'm sure we even got a couple while we were recording. So definitely looking to make this a little more recurring.
Yeah, stay tuned next week when we welcome back our old friend Chris Peak to do a season preview. The season preview. How are we going to get to 10 wins this time?
One way or another. One way or another, we'll get there. As always, thank you for listening, and hail, loyal sons of Pittsburgh.